I'm here now at Rutgers. A couple years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, the team was actually traveling to one of my locations. We're in Scotch Plains, Manasquan down the shore, and then another spot in Middlesex. And I'm going to share with you guys stories first and foremost that you guys will connect with. When I first started training wrestlers, it wasn't out of a gym. I actually started training wrestlers initially out of my backyard and this small garage when living with my parents. And then the first kind of like official was when I bought the first house with my wife, and this first crew of wrestlers that started training with us, none of them made it out of the districts. Now some of you here may have never gone out of the districts. I don't know if we have any middle school guys here. And is anybody in here a state champ? Anybody here win states last year? Put your hand up. No state champs? Okay. So we're gonna talk about a lot of different things that's gonna get your mind clicking about how you gotta understand what it takes. So this first crew of guys that started training with me, it was about 6 guys. Like I said, they didn't make it out of the district. And they began training right after that season. And they had work ethic. That was number one. They were training 2 to 3 days a week with me, and then they would go to a wrestling club, and then they would compete on the regular. We had kids from all over. We had kids from Marlboro, we had some kids at private schools, we had kids from Raritan, Old Bridge, Edison. The next year, all those guys made it out of the district. 2 of them went to states. 1 kid placed 6th in the state when the year before, he got his collarbone broken in districts. And I remember he was so skinny. He was a 103 pounder. It wasn't 106, 108. And I said to him, Charles, you know why your collarbone broke? He goes, yes. That guy was killing me with that power half. I said, no, dude, you're like a chicken. You don't have any muscle on your body. And that was the beginning of him getting fired up to do the work. And these guys were consistent. They didn't just train when it was convenient for them. They showed up in season. They showed up in the summertime. In fact, one kid, when his family was on vacation in Wildwood, he borrowed his dad's car and drove twice a week up to Edison. That was about a 2.5-hour drive each way to get in his 2 workouts. That kid wound up being a state runner-up, and then he was a 2-time conference champ when he went to college. He went to Merchant Marines, and then he was, out on the ship. But those guys were workhorses. 2 years later, they all placed in the states. That whole crew was tough, and they worked. And that's one thing I knew about them. They weren't spoiled. I could count on those guys to show up. In the very same way that military special forces can count on their unit, on their swim buddy, on their wingman. And that's how we operate things here at Rutgers, is we gotta count on one another, because I get myself better by making my training partners better. And that's what made those guys great. Not good, that's what made them great. And by the way, the kid that was Charles, who wound up breaking his collarbone, he went 6th in the state, 3rd in the state. He won the region senior year. The kid that he beat to win the regions beat him in the states. That kid went on to win the states. Charles became an All-American when he was at Del Val. And the reason why I always share that story is because things have changed, and you don't need a strength coach to do push-ups, guys. You don't need a strength coach to teach you how to do pull-ups. So what happens is our most successful athletes, doesn't matter if it's wrestling or another sport, I would say success leaves clues. So I'm gonna talk about that. And those of you that are smart and self-disciplined and self-driven, you're gonna take what I'm sharing with you and you're gonna use it. Those of you that are not, you're gonna blame your mom and dad, you're gonna blame the ref. Who's ever heard the ref ripped me off? You ever hear that? Nobody ripped you off. Put yourself in that position. The more you can be responsible for your actions or lack of actions, the more successful you're gonna be. And wrestlers who do the work love the pressure. They love it. Wanna know why? Because they know that they're always gonna just fight for every inch of that mat. When they train, they're gonna fight, they're gonna put it all out. When they eat, when they sleep, the whole lifestyle. Because training is much more than what I just did with the Rutgers guys up in that weight room. It's who they hang out with, it's the books they read, it's the movies they watch, it's the food they put in their body, it's the effort they decide to put in or not put in during our training. And that's the same with you. Everything I'm telling you guys is the same stuff I'll tell my own kids. And it's the same stuff I'll tell the Rutgers guys. So that being said, nobody's special here. Nobody deserves like a special program. Yeah, sure, sometimes your shoulder, your knee, your back, you gotta work around that. But trust me, I've yet to meet a wrestler who's strong enough. That's here. 2 years ago, I was at Lehigh. All the years before that, I'd help out at Blair. I have yet to meet somebody who's strong enough, fast enough, tough enough. And those of you that really follow closely, have you ever seen a kid win the States once or twice, then senior year loses? You get comfortable. You think you're better than everybody. You think you got it. I'm strong enough. I'm good enough. I don't need that workout. I'm doing my workout. I'm doing this special program. You ever hear that? Coach Pritzloff said, we were talking about that quote, brilliance behind the basics. So on the way up here, I was listening to a podcast by a guy who was part of one of the Marine Force Recon teams in the 90s. I don't know how many Marines there are. I believe there's several 100,000, and back then there was 300 Recon Marines, and he was talking about he's like, I don't need all these fancy weapons and fancy guns. He named these basic guns, and he said, brilliance behind the basics. That's what got the job done. That's what got me to be part of Force Recon. Spoke to another buddy of mine, strength coach for a football team at a D1 team down in Georgia. And I said, his name's Jim. I go, Jimmy, I don't see your guys doing all these fancy speed hurdles and all this speed, this and that. He goes, that's right. He goes, we do the basics. He goes, we do the simple things savagely well. The guys that are on Rutgers here, I'm still teaching them how to properly set up their back on a deadlift, how to set up their feet on the squat, how to get a little bit lower, how to torque your shoulders and arms properly to get the most, the best position, the most bang for your buck. Because those little details, guys, that stuff counts. Those are those big difference makers. The other stuff that counts is you have to be coachable. And coachable means you've got to be accepting of when a coach is tough on you. I always tell the guys, I tell it to my kids too, I go, if your coach is not tough on you, and props to all the coaches who are out here, I know you could be doing a lot of other things, but guys, I've seen coaches who don't care. Coaches who do care are here with you. So when a coach is tough on you, it has nothing to do with whether he likes you or not. It's because he sees your potential and he sees what you can become. And the underlying factor to how great you will become is your work ethic. So if I look around and you guys are 14, 15, maybe 18, here's the truth about what I should see. I should see, we have, I think, 370-something wrestlers here. I should see, you ever see the movie Spartan 300? That's what you guys should look like. You're too young to have no muscle. You're too young to be unable to do 10 pull-ups, 20 pull-ups. Even you big guys should be able to bang out 10, 15 pull-ups. You should be able to do 50 push-ups in a row. You should be a savage because you're young and you're capable. When you're older, like some of us coaches that are in our late 30s and 40s, then it's like dog years on the wrestling con. But in your teenage years, guys, none of you should have a belly. You should be strong and you should look the part. And that takes a lot of work. It's not going to take a 6-week YouTube program that you saw or anything out of a magazine. Those guys that started in the garage, they were just crushing it. And the beauty behind that program was the lack of perfection. Even though I was pretty darn knowledgeable, I think sometimes you guys now with all the internet and all this crap, you get too much knowledge, you overanalyze everything, and then you start finding ways to avoid the work. You start finding ways to say, squatting is no good, or the squat is bad for my back and bad for my knees. The only thing that's bad for your back and bad for your knees at this age is being weak. Because when you're weak, things hurt. When you're strong, your body feels strong. Your mind feels strong. I used to talk with a friend of mine a lot. He was a two-time All-American Division I wrestler in the late 70s. He was a state champ junior year in high school, runner-up senior year from Ohio. And he used to do 500 push-ups a day. He said, Zach, even the day I won the states, I weighed in and I did 500 push-ups a day. A lot of kids come to the gym, they go through an intro workout, they can barely make it through the warm-up. That's no good. So what I want to give you guys is some concrete things that you must do to give you the best shot of being successful as a wrestler and ultimately as a person. Because really, wrestling, the beauty behind it is if you apply that work ethic to your life when you get older, you can really achieve a lot, because most people quit when it gets hard. Wrestlers are known for loving the challenge, which makes you tougher. Coach Reed doing 500 push-ups a day, 500 push-ups after he weighs in, wins a state title in Ohio, okay? Not like he was in, I don't know, where's it not hard to win a state title?
Vermont.
Alabama, Vermont, I don't know. In Ohio, this guy wins a state title. He goes to college, he's still doing the 500 push-ups, he wins a conference title freshman, sophomore year, but he says, man, I just can't seem to be that guy that's All-American, win a national title. He goes, so I knew I had to lift. Started doing power cleans. He goes, I would take my body weight, do 10 power cleans, go to the other side of the gym, 10 chin-ups. Go back, 10 power cleans, 10 pull-ups. 10 sets of 10, had to be done in 20 minutes, 7 days a week. He wasn't worried about his post-workout shake, his overtraining. He was this. He was friggin' tough. Now, you guys have this knowledge and you say things like, I've got an all-star match, one match. It's like 6 days away. Can I deload? No, you cannot deload. You haven't even loaded yourself to the limit. You've got to pull that throttle more, get that pedal to the metal a little bit more, and work every day. That's the truth, guys. And you can't just work when you're with a coach, or when mom and dad say, hey, did you do your push-ups? Did you sprint? You've got to do the work when nobody's watching. That's crucial. Things that you guys should be great at. I want to get this in stone. You guys should be able to bang out all kinds of push-ups. Regular push-ups, feet elevated push-ups, clapping push-ups, push-ups on gymnastic rings. All of you should be able to get 50 in a row. Full range, not half rep, not head down, not that mini rep thing, but locking them out. 50. How do you get good at push-ups? Somebody raise their hand and tell me. What do you got, my man? Say it again. You do push-ups. You wake up in the morning, you eat push-ups for breakfast. You go to phys ed class, before your teacher's taking attendance, you're doing push-ups. You come home, you do push-ups. Before you go to bed, you do push-ups. Before you know it, you probably did over 100 push-ups right there. Same thing with pull-ups. You walk by a pull-up bar, you do pull-ups. Sprinting and hill sprints. Okay, find a hill, find some trails. I know all of us live in kind of different parts of New Jersey. I would say New Jersey's like interesting, like the beach, and you got like the beach, the city, the farm, it's kind of all mixed up. You gotta run sprints. Why? So when your coaches start, when wrestling season starts right after Thanksgiving, you don't have to get in shape because you're gonna be in shape. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't show up in wrestling and have to run. When wrestling season starts, it's time to wrestle. With our guys in season, we still train hard. But what's the most important thing? What's the most important thing in wrestling? Wrestling. So our workouts don't interfere with their wrestling. so I communicate heavily with the coaches. Now, what do our most successful wrestlers do that train at the Underground Strength Gym? They show up once a week, maybe twice in season. It depends on how busy you are with schedule, with tournaments. What do our not so successful guys do? The season starts, and then they stop training. Convenience and excellence are never found on the same road. It's gonna be tough if you want to be great. Raise your hand if you want to go to the States. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you want to win the States. Okay, put your hands down. Now, if you said you want to win the States, if you've seen that documentary on Flow Wrestling with Mark Perry, he said, man, every time a recruit is talking to me, he says he wants to win a national title. He goes, they're delusional. He goes, to win at that level, you have to go through some dark places. If you want to win a state title, you could talk to some of these guys here on the team. There's guys with multiple state titles under their belt. Some of them are very talented. And some guys here are going to be more talented than you. But guess what? I've seen a lot of talented dudes who decide to just kick back a little bit because they're good enough, and then they get beat by a workhorse who refuses to lose. Somebody like my friend, Ethan Reeve, Coach Reeve. I said, Coach Reeve, what were you thinking before a match? He goes, you know, when I'd be warming up on the side, I'd look across, I just kind of heat up my hands, and I knew that that guy didn't work as hard as me. So I knew that I was gonna beat him. And he said one time a kid transferred in who was from one of the states in Russia, and he said, you know, they were hyping him up that he was gonna take my spot. He was gonna take my spot. He goes, so when we wrestled, I knew I was more physical than him. So when I get him in that front headlock, I'd choke him a little bit so he could feel my strength. And he's like, I did some extra training to get myself confident enough so when I wrestled off, I didn't fear. I wasn't thinking he's more technical than me, he has some edge over me. He did that work. He did that work. Some basic stuff you guys should also do. I mentioned the calisthenics. Calisthenics you guys can do every day. Every day. Those of you guys that live near the beach, get to the beach, swim, run on the sand. Without waiting for your coach, you upperclassmen, heck, you underclassmen, organize your teammates and drill on the grass. Upper body drilling, partner hand walking, gymnastic drills, squat jumps, lunge jumps, 100 reps of walking lunges, pummel drills, go to the football field, run the bleachers. When wrestling season starts, you will be in top shape. If you're like getting hurt and beat up during this camp, it's probably because you're not in shape. You're not physically ready for this kind of work. Last thing I want to say to the wrestlers, and then I'm gonna connect with the coaches and do some quick Q&A. Guys, the details are crucial. This week a kid told me, he goes, we were squatting, and that's a very basic exercise, been around since forever. Put that bar on your back and squat. He goes, all right, I did, I think he said 265 during the season. I go, there's no way, homeboy, because you just did 185 for 3, and you're like 20 pounds heavier, and it's not in season. So you probably did half a squat. So here's the thing with those half squats and half everything. Do you get 1 point because you got half of the takedown, you kind of almost took him down? Did you guys get a point? Do you get, 1 point because I almost had you on your back? Everything is technique, technique. That's number 1. So you must understand how to do it the right way. That's crucial. So half reps don't count. They don't count. Wrestlers, I want you to think of a question that you might have. It might be about, some of you guys talk about cutting weight, training in season, nutrition stuff. Think about it. Coaches. First of all, I love seeing coaches here. That says a lot. I know what it's like. You probably have family at home, you're here, and I hope these kids understand the dedication you're putting to them. And it's cool to see faces. I've seen a lot, like Glenn, just like being around for decades. It's, wrestling, your coaches are here because wrestling not only changed their life, but probably saved some of our lives, give us life. A couple things for the wrestling coaches. Number 1, You know, a lot of our guys, they'll tell us like the first week, first 2 weeks, they're just running, they're just sprinting. You know, John Smith said something to me, I was 14 years old, I still remember. He said, your best conditioning is hard drilling. Now, you wrestlers, you want to be in shape, be the hardest worker in the room. Drill aggressively. I get goosebumps when I think about the story. John Smith had 2 drill partners, and I think he could have used a 3rd or 4th. He was drilling so hard, the guys couldn't keep up with him. He was so intense, and he said, when you drill, if I walk in on the room, I should wonder, are you live wrestling or not? That should be your pace. Half-ass it in the practice room, half-ass it when you do your strength training. And strength and conditioning is a blanket term. You know, it's more like overall performance. Hard drilling is going to be the best conditioning. So organize training in the off season, so when your wrestlers show up, we're not in the, I got to get these guys in shape. But also, boys, get yourself in shape. Don't wait for your coach to tell you how to do it and what to do. You got to figure that stuff out. In-season lifting is crucial. Let me break it down. The wrestlers that stop lifting with us in season, December, they feel pretty good. January, they start feeling the effect of getting weaker. They also start to second guess their preparation. Man, that guy gave me a hard time. I'm not really feeling that strong. I'm feeling a little bit run down. Am I tired? Am I getting weaker? Should I have done this? Did I not do this? Boom, then it's February. Districts, and now guys want to come back and train, and they're scrambling and they're desperate. Desperate doesn't win. Being prepared wins. So it's the consistency. That is the ticket. So coaches, in season, lift once a week. That's 100% more than 0. If you're near one of my locations, the reason why we do it is to help you guys. So if you want to organize with us, we want to let you go home and see your family so we can help the kids. Simple lifts in season, don't kill the guys. Low reps, Zercher squats, farmer walk, dumbbell or kettlebell clean and press. Throw in some jump training during the warm-up. I think even on my YouTube channel, you can type in warm-up and pull some of that stuff. We do a lot of squat jumps and buddy carries and partner hand walks and a lot of pull-ups. If they just do that, and then you guys go into the weight room and bang out something like 5 sets of 3 on a trap bar deadlift, boom, you're gonna be feeling strong. And then, you know, maybe if you go to the regions, we usually play it by ear. If you win your district, we're gonna do one last lift. If you don't win your district and you're wrestling on Tuesday, we play it by ear. Some of our wrestlers, they love to train hard, so I kind of try to organize the training by their personality. So if I know they like to do the work, I do a little extra with them so they're confident. Some of these guys are a little more like, they gotta be dialed in. Like our one guy that took 2nd in the state, Jim Machada, he was more of like, hey man, I'm gonna start toning down my training a little bit, I wanna do some extra rolling out. And we had another kid, TJ Mitchell, I think he may have taken 4th in the state. I remember him, he would train with the football guys because they lifted very heavy, and that built his confidence up. So remember, I haven't met anybody at the Division I level, even the guys who were prepping for the Olympics, I haven't met somebody who's strong enough, fast enough, tough enough, which means you all got the potential to get better. But guess what?